They sent a fleet to crush me, but I held a secret weapon no one expected. Commander Kai Draven stood rigid on the bridge of his battered frigate, eyes locked on the star-speckled void ahead. Across the darkness, a colossal enemy fleet materialized, thousands of warships stretching far beyond the horizon. The sheer scale was suffocating, steel leviathans bristling with weapons, engines glowing ominously. Red alerts flashed feverishly across consoles as the crew worked silently, tension thick enough to choke. Each crew member's breath caught in their throat as the reality sank in. They faced annihilation. Yet, Kai's gaze remained unflinching, burning with steely resolve. This was the moment where legends were born or destroyed, where hope clashed with despair on the edge of the abyss. Behind Kai, murmurs rippled like nervous currents among the crew. His closest allies exchanged worried glances, voices barely above a whisper. "We can't hold out much longer," one breathed, while another muttered, "Isn't surrender our only option?" Anxiety flickered in their eyes, reflecting the crushing weight of impossible odds. The unity that had kept them strong now frayed at the edges, and desperation sought to replace courage. Yet, amidst the hushed doubts, Kai remained a pillar of calm, unwavering even as fear crept through the corridors. Suddenly, the ship's comms crackled alive with a sharp subspace transmission. A holographic projection of the enemy commander filled the bridge, his face cold and unyielding. "Lay down your arms, resistance," the voice commanded, "or be obliterated. Your defiance ends here." Behind him, ominous red warning text scrolled rapidly, punctuating the ultimatum. The message echoed across the void, an unforgiving decree that left no room for negotiation. Every crew member felt the electric sting of the threat, their desperation mounting as the enemy's intent became brutally clear. Kai's fingers hovered momentarily over the console, heart hammering against his ribs like a battle drum. The weight of command pressed down, but his eyes hardened with resolve. Memories flickered, narrow escapes, impossible victories, the fierce loyalty of his crew. He inhaled deeply, steadying his breath, clenching his fists until his knuckles whitened. This wasn't the first time he'd faced overwhelming odds, and it wouldn't be the last. With renewed clarity, he set his jaw and readied himself to defy fate once more. With a practiced motion, Kai flicked a concealed switch beneath the main console, activating a hidden panel. The ship hummed as secret systems powered online, codenamed the Aegis Protocol. Glowing indicators and encrypted data streams flooded the displays, revealing a clandestine weapon forged in secrecy and desperation. Crew members exchanged breathless looks, the sudden shift injecting fresh energy into the bridge. What the enemy expected as a ragtag crew was about to become an unpredictable storm, an unseen force ready to strike back. Kai lowered his voice, a fierce whisper cutting through the charged air. "They think they're hunting ghosts," he said, eyes scanning each face with fierce determination. "But we are the storm." The crew's tension shifted instantly, replaced by a spark of defiance. Hands clenched weapons tighter, nods spread like wildfire, and a steady current of unity surged through the room. In that fleeting moment, doubt was swallowed by resolve. They would fight, not just to survive, but to become an unstoppable force. Engines roared as the frigate's power surged, the once dim glow flaring to brilliant life. Starfields outside stretched and warped as the ship maneuvered into position, ready to unleash its secret. The crew settled into battle stations, fingers steady on controls, eyes sharp and unyielding. The air buzzed with anticipation and raw energy. Against impossible odds, Commander Kai Draven and his ragtag crew prepared to become the storm, an unrelenting force in the endless darkness of space, ready to rewrite the fate awaiting them. The Tarnis sector, once a vibrant nexus of trade and culture, now lay shattered beneath a pall of endless war. Starports that once hummed with commerce stood in ruin, docking bays abandoned, crumbling under the weight of neglect and bombardment. Silent ships drifted aimlessly in the void, casualties of fierce battles that left the cluster scarred and desolate. What was once a thriving web of interconnected worlds had fractured into isolated battle zones, its prosperity eclipsed by smoke and fire. The distant glow of war reflected coldly on shattered infrastructure, a grim reminder that peace here had become a forgotten dream. Among the vast expanse of silent space lanes, refugee ships floated like ghosts, their flickering lights weak against the dark canvas of stars. These vessels, filled with displaced families and weary souls, carried the shattered remnants of civilizations torn apart by conflict. Inside, passengers clung to hope as their ships glided past war-torn worlds, seeking sanctuary beyond the relentless violence. The hushed hum of life support and distant cries mingled with the vast silence of space, a somber testament to the human cost hidden amid the cold mechanics of war. Far from the front lines, sprawling corporate megacities loomed, their gleaming towers overshadowed by the iron fist of martial law. Fuel was rationed tightly alongside hope, dispensed in measured doses to an anxious populace. Checkpoints manned by armed guards regulated every movement, while propaganda hollow ads flickered relentlessly, preaching loyalty and order amid growing unrest. Beneath the polished surfaces, whispers of dissent stirred, but the corporate overlords held tight, using fear and scarcity to maintain control over the fractured sector. Patrolling the fringes of the tarnished sector, swarms of intelligence drones weaved silently through asteroid belts and nebulae. Their red scanning beams pierced the shadows, hunting for any trace of rebel transmissions. With relentless precision, they monitored every anomaly, every flicker of unauthorized communication, casting an invisible net that tightened with each passing hour. The drone's mechanical hum was a constant reminder that freedom was a fleeting dream, and the rebels' every move was shadowed by cold, unblinking eyes. Amid the chaos, Kai's fleet moved stealthily, hidden in the jagged asteroid fields and swirling nebulae that dotted the sector's edge. Small, jury-rigged ships bore the scars of countless skirmishes, their hulls patched with scavenged metal and stolen tech. Within cramped control rooms, crews of scavengers, idealists, and battle-hardened veterans worked in tense unison, eyes flicking between flickering consoles and the void outside. They were a fragile flame of resistance in a sector drowning in war's cold shadow. Each day brought a new gamble. Battles left fresh scars, not only on the battered hulls, but on the spirits of those who fought aboard. Crew members nursed wounds both seen and hidden, finding quiet moments amidst the chaos to reflect on losses and victories. Exhaustion weighed heavy in the air, mingling with determination as morale fluctuated with every encounter. Yet, despite the weariness, a stubborn hope clung stubbornly to the crew, a fragile thread holding together the will to continue. Beneath the flickering lights of the command deck, Kai's most closely guarded secret remained hidden. Covered consoles hummed softly, their glow barely visible behind reinforced panels. Even trusted officers knew little of the weapon concealed within the ship's core, a dormant power waiting for the right moment to awaken. It was a beacon of hope and danger entwined, a final gambit in a desperate game where the line between survival and oblivion was razor-thin. Apkai stood at the front of the cramped briefing room, the dull hum of the ship's engines filling the silence as his crew gathered around. Their faces were worn, etched with fatigue from endless skirmishes and sleepless nights, but their eyes burned with a fierce, unyielding resolve. Every person in that small space knew the odds were stacked against them, yet the room vibrated with a shared determination to fight on. Kai's voice broke the tension, steady and clear as he outlined the impossible plan ahead. Quiet nods passed among the group, a silent pact forged in the shadows of desperation. Here, in this confined space, the spark of rebellion kindled anew. The tension lingered thick in the air, but Kai eased it with a wry grin. "They brought a fleet?" he said, voice sharp but laced with humor. "Great, more targets for our toys." The room cracked with laughter, the sound sharp and sudden, slicing through the anxiety like a breath of fresh air. Faces that had moments ago been grim and tight softened, exchanging knowing looks as humor bridged the gap between fear and courage. For a fleeting moment, the crew were not fighters facing annihilation, but comrades bound by a shared cause and a defiant spark of hope. The laughter was brief but vital. It reminded them why they fought. In the bowels of the ship, mechanics huddled over the weapon system, their hands deftly working against the clock. The quantum disruptor was a prototype, its power cores unstable and volatile, a marvel of dangerous science born from desperation. Sparks flew from exposed wiring as technicians connected cables, the soft hum of charging cores filling the cramped space. Every bolt tightened and circuit checked was a step deeper into uncertainty. Failure meant more than defeat. It meant extinction. But the crew worked in unison, focused and relentless. Each knew the risks, and yet their hands moved with practiced precision, forging hope from instability. This weapon was their last gamble, a fragile, lethal promise resting on a razor's edge. Amid the buzzing consoles and flickering lights, Kai caught Lieutenant Sarah Vaughn's eye. She was the ship's chief engineer, her calm presence a steadying force amid chaos. A rare smile passed between them, brief but charged with unspoken understanding. "If this fails," Kai said quietly, "at least we go out in style." Sarah's lips curled into a shadow of a grin, her eyes steady and resolute. That fleeting connection, a bond born not of words but of shared resolve, was a beacon in the storm. In that moment, the weight of the coming battle seemed lighter, buoyed by trust that transcended the fragility of their situation. Kai's voice cut through the ship's tense hum. "Prepare for the faint. Draw their fire." The crew sprang into action, maneuvering the battered frigate with calculated precision. The enemy fleet loomed closer, a vast sea of warships closing in like a tide of steel and fire. Kai's plan was audacious. Lead them into the disruptor's radius and unleash its destructive power at the perfect moment. Every twist and turn of the ship was a dance with death, every maneuver risking total annihilation. The crew's faces were tight with concentration as they executed the daring ruse, hearts pounding in time with the ship's shutters. This was their moment to turn the tide or fall beneath the crushing weight of impossible odds. As power surged through the quantum disruptor's core, Sarah met Kai's gaze across the control room. Her voice was steady, a lifeline amid the storm. "Ready when you are, Commander." The gravity of those words settled over them like a shield. Fingers hovered above controls, breaths synchronized in tense anticipation. The bond between leader and engineer crystallized in that charged glance. Unspoken promises of trust and shared fate. Every second stretched taut as the weapon hummed to life, a dangerous force tethered by human resolve. Together, they stood poised on the brink, ready to unleash a storm that could either save them all or drown them in oblivion. The disruptor's core pulsed with energy, casting eerie light across the control room as the ship's systems prepared for the coming assault. Crew members steadied themselves, fingers tightening on consoles, eyes fixed ahead. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, the calm before a tempest. Outside, the enemy fleet advanced relentlessly, oblivious to the storm about to be unleashed. Kai's heart beat in time with the weapon's pulse, every breath measured and deliberate. The fragile thread between hope and destruction trembled, yet the crew held fast, ready to face the raging battle that would decide their fate. The Aegis Protocol was unlike any weapon Kai's fleet had ever faced or wielded. Born from the desperate minds of exiled scientists, it was a cutting-edge quantum disruptor designed to temporarily collapse enemy shields and cripple their engines. The core thrummed with latent energy, glowing faintly in the dim control room as it awaited activation. Its promise was monumental, to rewrite the rules of engagement and tip a long-drained war in their favor. But with this power came immense risk. The weapon was as much a gamble as it was salvation, and Kai knew the weight that decision carried. If wielded correctly, It could shatter their enemy's advantage. If mishandled, it could destroy them all. This was the secret they had been hiding, an ace in the shadows waiting for its moment to strike. The dangerous heart of the Aegis Protocol was its unstable energy core. Its power was immense, but precarious, a delicate balance between control and catastrophe. Any miscalculation, any premature surge, could trigger a chain reaction obliterating Kai's own fleet alongside their foes. This double-edged sword loomed over every command decision, magnifying the tension in the control room. Red warning lights blinked erratically, echoing the flickering hope within the crew's eyes. The fragile line between salvation and destruction was razor-thin, and Kai felt the immense pressure as the weight of responsibility settled deep in his chest. One wrong move, and all will be lost, not just their battle, but everything they fought to protect. In the glow of flickering hollow screens, archival logs told the story behind the weapon's creation. These hollow fragments revealed exiled scientists, brilliant minds cast out by corporate powers, working in secrecy and desperation. Their laboratory, hidden from prying eyes and war profiteers, was a beacon of hope amid darkness. They poured every ounce of ingenuity and sacrifice into crafting the disruptor, encoding whispers of peace and freedom into every quantum pulse. As Kai watched these ghostly images, the voices and faces of those who had risked everything to end the war echoed softly in the silence. Their legacy now rested in his hands, a torch passed from exile to defiance. Kai's fingers hesitated over the control panel before he made the choice. Override the weapon's built-in safety failsafes. The room's hum deepened, warning lights flashing insistently as systems acknowledged the command. The looming sense of controlled chaos filled the air, thick and ominous. Every mechanism tensed like a drawn bowstring ready to unleash. The crew's eyes followed Kai's movements, the weight of the moment pressing on them all. Disabling safeguards was a gamble, one that could bring either salvation or ruin. But Kai's resolve was unwavering. This was the only path forward. With the flick of a switch, he committed to the surge that would change everything. His hands trembled slightly as he whispered to himself, "This weapon is hope, and a gamble." Across the console, Sarah met his gaze with a calm nod, the quiet strength in her eyes answering back, hope worth betting on. In that charged moment, fear and determination entwined like two sides of a coin. The stakes could not have been higher, yet within their shared silence was an unbreakable bond of trust. This fragile gamble represented not just their survival, but the possibility of a new dawn. They held the fate of many in their hands, balanced precariously on hope's fragile thread. A digital timer counted down relentlessly, T-minus 132, until the fleet breached the disruptor's effective range. Every second was a tightening noose, every heartbeat synchronized with the approaching surge. Crew members held their breath, eyes locked on the blinking digits as tension filled the control room. Outside, ships edged closer to the radius where the weapon's power would unleash. The hum of the disruptor grew louder, a low vibration underlining the gravity of the moment. Time itself seemed to compress, pressing in on the crew as anticipation mounted toward the critical instant. Kai moved swiftly to uplink encrypted signals to allied ships, weaving a precise web of coordination across the fleet. Streams of data rippled through subspace, lighting up hollow screens with cascading commands and timing protocols. Each message ensured that the fleet's assault would synchronize perfectly with the disruptor's blast, an orchestration of chaos and control. The network buzzed with renewed energy as allied commanders responded in kind. This digital torrent of coordination was their chance to strike as one, turning a gambit into a symphony of resistance. Kai's fingers danced over the controls, confident that their unity was their greatest strength. The disruptor's core hummed to life, its ethereal glow bathing the bridge in shifting blues and whites. The weapon's codename, Aegis Dawn, echoed softly through the comm channels, a herald of change and destruction to come. Energy pulses rippled across the coils, casting a surreal light that flickered like distant lightning storms. Crew members watched in awe and apprehension, the bridge alive with a charged anticipation. The name was fitting. This weapon was their shield and spear, a dawn rising against darkness. The moment had arrived, and the fleet held its collective breath. Kai and Sarah clasped gauntlets in a solemn vow, their hands locking with sparks of light bridging the gap between hope and destiny. For freedom's first light, Kai declared, his voice steady and resolute. Sarah's eyes shone with equal determination as they sealed their pact amid the hum of awakening power. This gesture was more than symbolic. It was a bond forged through trust, sacrifice, and the shared burden of leadership. The moment crystallized their partnership, uniting them in purpose as they prepared to bend fate itself toward victory. Power surged through the weapon's coils, shimmering as waves of energy radiated outward. The disruptor unleashed a pulse that rippled through space, its reach stretching far beyond the immediate vicinity. Stars flickered, as if caught in an electric storm, their light momentarily dimmed and sparked by the overwhelming force. The crew felt the tangible rush of unleashed power, an invisible tempest sweeping through the void. The bridge thrummed with energy as the weapon sent shockwaves cascading across the battlefield, signaling the beginning of a new era in their fight. With the disruptor's pulse fracturing enemy defenses, Allied ships surged forward in unison. The sudden flicker of offline systems left enemy vessels vulnerable, their formations breaking apart like shattered glass. Starships weaved through the chaos, firing with deadly precision, exploiting the confusion wrought by the weapon's effects. The fleet's momentum transformed from desperate defense to aggressive assault, turning the tide of battle. Cheers and shouts filled the command channels as the advantage shifted, and hope bloomed amid the disarray. Kai stood tall on the bridge, eyes fixed on the tactical displays as the enemy fleet faltered. "This is our moment. Strike now," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of leadership and conviction. The crew responded instantly, weapons firing and maneuvers sharpening with renewed purpose. Every heartbeat synchronized in that instant of defiance and hope. Kai's unwavering stance became a rallying beacon, inspiring his crew to press the advantage. The battle that once seemed hopeless now shimmered with the promise of victory, all hinging on their courage to seize the moment. Enemy ships struggled to regain control, their systems crippled by the disruptor's devastating pulse. Sparks flew inside command decks, alarms blared, and crews scrambled frantically to patch failing systems. The ripple of confusion and chaos swept through the ranks as shields flickered and engines sputtered. Disarray reigned where once order prevailed, and the enemy's organized assault began to crumble under the relentless pressure. Every flicker of their fading power was a victory for Kai's fleet and a testament to the disruptor's undeniable impact. Seizing the advantage, Allied commanders executed coordinated strikes against faltering enemy cruisers. Missiles and laser fire targeted vulnerable points with precision, exploiting weaknesses revealed by the disruptor's chaos. The battle became a masterclass in tactical brilliance, each move calculated and swift. The enemy's disintegration accelerated, turning what had been a desperate gamble into a strategic rout. The fleet's unity and resilience shone brightest in these moments, transforming a single weapon's power into a decisive turning point. As the enemy fleet began a disorganized retreat, the battered remnants slipped away into the cold dark. Kai and his crew exhaled collectively, relief washing over their faces tempered by the knowledge of the cost paid in lives and steel. The silence that followed was heavy but filled with cautious optimism. Victory was theirs, but the war was far from over. The scars of battle remained etched on every hull and heart, a sober reminder that freedom was always earned in blood and courage. The battle marked the dawn of a new rebellion, a spark ignited across starfields and colonies. As the first light of day pierced the void, Kai and Sarah stood side by side, ready for the long fight ahead. Their eyes reflected hope and unity, the unyielding spirit of those who refused to bow. In this new era, the Aegis Protocol was more than a weapon. It was a symbol of resilience and the promise of freedom yet to come. The battle erupted into chaos as enemy ships began losing power in cascading waves. One moment their shields blazed fiercely. The next, they flickered and died, leaving the vessels exposed and vulnerable. Weapon banks powered down without warning, plunging entire squadrons into eerie silence amid the storm of war. Bridge consoles flickered erratically as crew members scrambled to diagnose failures, their faces etched with shock and confusion. Systems that had once been reliable betrayed them in quick succession, leaving enemy pilots struggling to maintain control. The tide had shifted. What was once a seemingly invincible force now staggered under the invisible blow of the Aegis Protocol's disruptor pulse, and the battlefield transformed into a field of opportunity. Kai's fleet surged forward without hesitation, seizing the advantage born of enemy disarray. Boarding parties launched from assault shuttles, clambering aboard the disabled enemy ships with fierce determination. Inside the darkened corridors, firefights erupted between rebels and stunned crews, the sound of plasma bursts echoing against cold metal walls. Trapped prisoners found hope in the face of their rescuers, their grateful expressions fueling the attackers' resolve. Every captured ship became a prize reclaimed, and every freed crew member a new ally in the fight for freedom. The rebels' momentum built steadily, pushing forward with relentless courage as the enemy fleet frayed and splintered beneath their coordinated assault. Across the corporate command centers, panic rippled through megacorp leadership as reinforcements scrambled to respond. Harried officers barked urgent orders over comms, desperate to patch holes in their faltering defenses. Yet uncertainty gnawed at their confidence. The sudden and inexplicable failures sowed doubt within their ranks. Behind glass walls, commanders exchanged grim looks, calculating the cost of their faltering strategy. Fleets once poised for dominance now hesitated, unsure whether to press forward or withdraw in disarray. The corporate machinery, long accustomed to control and power, found itself caught off guard, scrambling to regain footing in a battle slipping steadily beyond their grasp. Kai's voice cut through the static of the commnet, booming with unyielding conviction. This is the dawn of a new era. Fight for every star. His declaration sparked a fire among rebels and exiles, spreading like wildfire across the network. Faces lit up with determination and renewed hope as his words echoed through every ship and station tuned in. Messages of courage and solidarity surged through the channels, binding disparate crews into a singular force. The rallying cry transcended rank and allegiance, uniting all who longed for freedom into a fierce wave ready to sweep away oppression. The revolution's voice had been heard, and it was roaring. On the bridge of the flagship, Sarah worked tirelessly to reroute every ounce of remaining energy to keep the disruptor pulsing at full strength. Her fingers danced across glowing conduits and console panels as tension thickened in the air. The weapon strained against its limits, humming with raw power and delicate precision. Every surge was a gamble, pushing both machine and crew to the brink of exhaustion. Despite the risk, Sarah's unwavering focus never faltered. She understood that their survival depended on maintaining this fragile edge. The room pulsed with a mix of hope and dread as the disruptor continued to pulse, a beacon of defiance in the darkness. Kai sealed all communications aboard his fleet, cutting off any external transmissions to prevent infiltration or betrayal. No one betrays the Aegis, he declared solemnly, his words ringing through the command channels. The lockdown tightened the fleet's unity, leaving no room for dissent or sabotage. Crew members exchanged resolute nods, their faces steeling with shared purpose. In this moment, the fragile threads of trust were woven into an unbreakable bond, forged in the crucible of war and necessity. The fleet became a single organism, every hand, every breath synchronized to the rhythm of their defiant stand. Beneath shattered starfields shimmering like scattered diamonds, rebels and exiles rallied as one. Ships moved in coordinated formations, their banners and insignia waving defiantly against the cosmic backdrop. Crews stood shoulder to shoulder on decks, united by the hope kindled in their hearts. The combined force of their diversity and shared struggle heralded a new dawn, a powerful symbol that even in the darkest void, unity could ignite the brightest light. This was no longer a fight for survival alone. It was the birth of a movement destined to change the stars themselves. Allied commanders seized upon the enemy's faltering state with tactical brilliance. Precision strikes targeted crippled cruisers, exploiting vulnerabilities exposed by the disruptor's chaotic pulse. Starships weaved expertly through debris and disrupted energy fields, coordinating missile barges and laser volleys with deadly efficiency. Each successful strike tightened the noose, fracturing enemy cohesion and morale. The battlefield became a dance of calculated aggression, turning chance into strategy. Victory was no longer a hope. It was a tactical inevitability, born of opportunity and courage. As the first light of a new day crept over distant stars, the battle's outcome crystallized into a hard-won promise. The enemy fleet began retreating, slipping away into the void with battered hulls and shattered resolve. Kai and his crew exhaled deeply, relief and exhaustion mingling on their faces. Yet beneath their victory lay a sober awareness of the cost paid. Lives lost, sacrifices made, and a war that still loomed on the horizon. The fight was far from over, but a turning point had been reached. The tide had turned, and with it, the dawn of rebellion and hope. The command deck hummed softly under dimmed lights as Kai Draven stood silently, watching his crew move with quiet urgency. Medics tended to wounded soldiers, their hands steady but faces shadowed by exhaustion and grief. The air was thick with the weight of recent battles. Victories marked not by cheers, but by the lingering cost of lives lost. Each bandaged arm, each weary glance, reminded Kai that freedom was never free. The dim glow of emergency panels cast long shadows across the room, mirroring the silent toll the fight had taken on every soul aboard. Despite the fragile calm, the echo of loss hummed beneath the surface, an unspoken burden shared by all who survived. Sarah Vaughn approached, her brow furrowed with concern as she studied the readings from the disruptor's control panel. Kai, she began quietly, her voice low and tense, the instabilities worsening. Every surge pushes the energy core closer to critical meltdown. If we keep this up, her sentence hung heavy in the air, the unspoken threat clear. Flickering warning lights blinked erratically around them, adding urgency to her words. The weight of responsibility pressed down on both of them. The fragile line between salvation and annihilation grew thinner with each passing moment. Kai met her gaze steadily, a quiet fire burning behind tired eyes. "We gamble for freedom or die trying," he said firmly, stepping closer to clasp her hand in his. The simple touch conveyed more than words. Their shared commitment, their unbreakable unity against overwhelming odds. Around them, the crew continued their work, but in that small moment, the world seemed to narrow down to their intertwined fingers and a shared hope that this gamble would pay off. Together, they were stronger against the impossible and the unknown. The steady hum of the Aegis disruptor filled the room, a low, pulsing vibration that seemed to seep into the very walls. Beneath the mechanical rhythm, however, lurked Kai's doubts. Would their gamble truly bring victory, or would it become the song of their destruction? The soft flickering of console lights mirrored the flickering certainty within him. Despite his resolve, the silence held a fragile tension, a quiet rift between hope and fear. Every pulse of the weapon was both a promise and a warning, its power a double-edged sword straddling the line between salvation and catastrophe. Breaking the silence, Sarah's voice softened as she turned to face Kai fully. "If this is our last stand," she asked gently, her eyes searching his. Will you still fight? When the odds are gone and all that's left is the shadow of defeat. The question was heavy, weighted with the gravity of their shared predicament. It was not just a test of strategy, but of spirit, an intimate challenge to Kai's heart and soul, to the resilience they both needed to carry. Kai's response was steady and unwavering as he nodded firmly. If this dawn fades, he said quietly but with conviction, I'll light another. The words hung in the air like a vow, a promise not just to fight this battle, but to ignite hope anew, no matter how dark the night. His gaze held a quiet strength, the unyielding spirit of a leader who refused to surrender. Sarah's eyes reflected the same determination, a silent pact formed in that shared moment of resolve. On the nearest console, the emblem of the Aegis dawn glowed steadily, a soft, pulsating light that cut through the dimness. It symbolized more than a weapon. It was a beacon of defiance, hope, and the unbreakable will of those who stood against despair. Faces of the crew, caught in its glow, wore expressions of quiet determination, their fears momentarily soothed by the emblem's steady pulse. In that light, even the darkest moments held the promise of dawn. Kai's fleet, battered but unbowed, pulsed with renewed life across the war-torn sectors. Ships that had once drifted silent and broken now buzzed with activity under flickering emergency lights. Crews moved swiftly, patching hull breaches, rewiring damaged circuits, and recalibrating worn engines. The sharp clang of tools echoed through corridors as pilots shared determined nods, their eyes burning with the fire of defiance. Starfields outside the viewports were dotted with the scattered glimmers of Allied vessels, each one a beacon of resistance rising from despair. The scars of battle marked every hull and every face, but the spirit of the fleet refused to break. Kai stood at the helm of his flagship, watching as systems hummed back to life, a quiet promise that their fight was far from over. Across the vastness of subspace, the Aegis dawn's pulse radiated outward in rhythmic waves, slicing through the cosmic void like a clarion call. This powerful signal, once a weapon of destruction, now served as a beacon of freedom, its energy weaving through communications networks and star charts, sparking hope on countless distant worlds. On remote mining colonies, oppressed citizens stopped in their tracks, eyes lighting up as encrypted hollow messages flickered to life. Resistance cells stirred from shadowy silence, their secret meetings ignited by the promise carried in the pulse. Across planets scarred by tyranny, the ripple grew into a roaring wave of rebellion, a testament that the courage of a few could awaken the many. The Aegis Dawn was no longer just a weapon. It had become a symbol of unyielding defiance. In the quiet sanctuary of the flagship's bridge, Kai and Sarah stood side by side, gazing through the viewport at the endless cosmos. The stars above shimmered with an intensity Kai hadn't seen in years, a subtle yet profound reminder that hope, like light, could pierce even the darkest void. Sarah's eyes caught his, a soft smile playing on her lips, and in that silent exchange, volumes of sacrifice, pain, and triumph were understood. They didn't need words. The brilliance of the cosmos reflected their renewed resolve, and the unspoken bond forged through fire and loss. Together, they watched as distant stars seemed to flicker in acknowledgement, a celestial applause for the dawn their defiance had ushered. With their gazes still fixed on the starlit expanse, Kai and Sarah clasped hands over the softly glowing console before them. The warmth of the connection steadied their racing hearts, grounding them in the gravity of their mission. "This dawn is fragile," Kai whispered, voice thick with solemnity, "but it's the promise we owe to every soul who still dreams of freedom." Sarah nodded, her grip tightening, a silent vow to guard this light against the shadows that would seek to snuff it out. They understood the path ahead was long and perilous, but together they would bear the weight of hope. Their unity was more than strategy. It was a sacred covenant with all those yearning for a brighter tomorrow. Across the fractured reaches of the galaxy, pockets of resistance blossomed like wildflowers in barren soil. On crowded urban streets of mining planets, rebels rallied beneath hastily painted banners and flickering neon signs, their voices rising in defiant chorus. Encrypted communications crackled to life in hidden dens, spreading messages of solidarity and strategy. Fighters armed with scavenged weapons trained relentlessly, their eyes sharp with renewed purpose. Every act of rebellion, be it a sabotage supply route or a liberated outpost, added to the growing momentum fueled by the fleet's audacity. The Aegis Dawn's pulse had sown seeds of hope that blossomed into a sprawling network of defiance, challenging oppression's grip with unwavering courage. In war rooms bathed in dim blue light, leaders from diverse factions gathered, smugglers, freedom fighters, displaced civilians, all answering the call to unite. They exchanged vital intelligence, shared scarce resources, and coordinated strikes against common enemies. Weapons and supplies moved fluidly across borders once rigid with mistrust, as crews from differing backgrounds found kinship in survival. Plans unfolded with newfound precision, leveraging the strengths of each group. The fleet's defiant surge was no longer a solitary blaze, but the spark igniting a sprawling constellation of allies. The tapestry of resistance grew ever stronger, bound by shared sacrifice and a common vision of freedom. As dawn broke over the distant starfields, silhouettes of ships slipped quietly into the unknown, their engines whispering promises of hope and renewal. The road ahead was uncertain, littered with danger and sacrifice, but the fragile light kindled within the fleet burned fiercely. Kai and Sarah, standing resolute at the helm, understood that this was only the beginning, a prologue to a long, arduous fight for liberty that would test their spirit and resolve. Yet, with unity as their shield and hope as their guide, they stepped boldly forward, ready to face the darkness and carve a future where freedom might finally flourish. Kai's voice resonated through the tactical comms as allied fleets shifted their focus from sporadic guerrilla raids to precise, coordinated strikes. The star maps on the holo display flickered with plotted courses targeting key corporate strongholds, resource depots, weapon foundries, and communication hubs. Fleets assembled under careful command, their ships forming tight formations bristling with firepower. Crews studied battle plans with renewed intensity, understanding that this evolution marked a critical turning point. No longer were they scattered insurgents. They were an organized force capable of challenging Imperial might head-on. The shifting tides of war breathed new life into the rebellion, empowering those who had long endured in the shadows. Rebel envoys stepped into austere negotiation chambers, their presence met with wary gazes from sector governors and corporate delegates. Behind polished holoscreens displaying recent Aegis power victories, tense exchanges unfolded, terms of ceasefire, resource sharing, and mutual defense carefully negotiated. The envoys leveraged not only battlefield successes, but the undeniable momentum the rebels carried, insisting on equality and recognition. Though suspicion lingered in the air, cracks in corporate unity began to show as pragmatism outweighed fear. Each signed document and nodding head signaled the fragile birth of alliances once deemed impossible, heralding the first real steps toward peace in a fractured galaxy. Within the flagship's war room, soft ambient lighting cast gentle shadows across focused faces. Sarah approached Kai, placing a steady hand on his shoulder, her eyes reflecting the weight of countless battles endured. "You brought light to the dark?" she whispered, her voice warm with admiration. Kai met her gaze, a faint smile curving his lips. "And you kept it burning," he replied quietly. In that intimate moment, beyond strategy and firepower, lay a profound mutual recognition, a bond forged through sacrifice and unwavering resolve. Their shared glance spoke louder than words, a testament to their partnership's strength as they prepared for what lay ahead. Deep within secure rebel hubs, engineers worked feverishly as encrypted data streams raced across interconnected networks. The Aegis blueprint, once a closely guarded secret, now spread clandestinely to allies and sympathizers across star systems. Inspired by the original disruptor's power, inventors and technicians collaborated to replicate and improve upon the technology, crafting new weapons to arm the growing rebellion. The torrent of data rippled through hidden comm channels, igniting sparks of innovation and hope wherever it reached. This shared knowledge symbolized not just technological advancement, but a collective resolve to resist oppression and reclaim freedom by any means necessary. In sleek corporate boardrooms far from battlefields, the mood turned grim as fleet commanders reported staggering losses. The unstoppable advance of rebel forces, bolstered by Aegis technology, struck fear into the hearts of warlords who once ruled with impunity. Orders were hurriedly issued to withdraw fleets and consolidate defenses, but the cracks had deepened. Ports once bustling with corporate activity lay eerily silent, supply lines disrupted, and loyalist morale waning. Behind guarded doors, executives debated desperate strategies, realizing that the rebellion's rise threatened not just territory, but the very foundation of their power. Amid cheers and solemn ceremony, representatives from liberated systems gathered beneath banners waving proudly in the breeze. The Dawn Accord, an unprecedented treaty formalizing peace, cooperation, and shared governance, was signed with firm hands and hopeful hearts. Civilians, military leaders, and former outlaws stood united, pledging to rebuild shattered worlds and honor the sacrifices made. Hollow projections displayed the Accord's terms, emphasizing inclusivity and mutual respect. The document symbolized a turning point, from war's endless night to a dawn where dialogue and solidarity would guide the galaxy's future. The emblem of Aegis Dawn soon became a powerful symbol emblazoned across ships, uniforms, and flags throughout the rebelling systems. Two crossed blades beneath a rising star. This icon spoke of resistance, resilience, and renewal. Communities gathered beneath its banner, saluting with pride as the emblem fluttered in spaceports and city squares alike. Soldiers carried patches bearing its design. Civilians wore jewelry crafted in its likeness. Its presence inspired courage and unity, a constant reminder that even in the darkest times, a spark of hope can forge a legacy that outshines oppression. The rebellion, once a scattered collection of insurgents, evolved into a structured governing body tasked with overseeing peace and reconstruction. Council chambers bustled with representatives from diverse backgrounds, each voice contributing to decisions shaping the new order. Reconstruction efforts accelerated as resources were allocated to rebuild infrastructure, restore public services, and heal the wounds of war. Former fighters transitioned into roles of leadership, their battlefield experiences guiding policies grounded in justice and equity. The fledgling government embodied the aspirations of a people determined to rise beyond conflict and cultivate a future defined by cooperation and prosperity. Across reclaimed planets, marketplaces thrived once more, vibrant with the hum of commerce and the laughter of children. Schools reopened, their halls filled with eager learners hungry for knowledge and growth. Gardens bloomed amidst urban centers, symbols of renewal and life taking root after years of strife. Communities rebuilt homes and friendships alike, weaving new social fabrics strengthened by shared hardship and hope. The pulse of daily life quickened, propelled by the energy of those who dared to dream beyond survival. In every corner of the galaxy, lives were rekindled, nourished by the promise of peace and the courage of those who fought to create it. As the twin suns rose over bustling colonies and ships sailed freely through clear star lanes, a new era dawned, one where hope triumphed over despair and freedom's light illuminated the darkest reaches of space. The orchestral swell of victory echoed across worlds, carried by voices celebrating hard-won peace. Families reunited beneath bright skies, explorers charted new horizons, and the stars themselves seemed to shine with renewed brilliance. In this moment, The galaxy embraced a future shaped not by war, but by the indomitable spirit of unity, courage, and enduring hope. Across former war-torn planets, the scars of battle began to fade beneath the determined hands of their inhabitants. Cranes tower over sprawling construction sites as crews tirelessly assemble new buildings from salvaged materials and fresh resources. Vibrant parks emerge where rubble once lay, lush greenery breathing life back into the charred earth. Markets bustle with renewed energy. Traders call out their wares. Children dart through narrow streets, laughter replacing the echoes of gunfire. Communities, once shattered by conflict, now pulse with hope and resilience. These reborn cities are more than just structures. They are monuments to survival, testaments to the unyielding spirit of those who refuse to be defined by their past wounds. Within quiet classrooms bathed in soft holographic light, Kai shares his hard-won wisdom with the next generation of leaders. His stories of sacrifice and strategy inspire young minds hungry to carry the flame forward. Nearby, Sarah oversees scientific teams working feverishly in state-of-the-art labs, directing efforts to restore damaged ecosystems and repair fractured infrastructure. Together, they foster a culture of collaboration and innovation, where lessons from the past fuel visions of a brighter future. Plans unfold across digital displays, reforestation initiatives, clean energy projects, and water purification systems, all aimed at healing the planets and their people. Their shared purpose is clear: to transform destruction into renewal, guiding society from the shadows of war into the light of hope. Sarah stands before the gathered fleet commanders, her expression calm yet resolute. Offered command of a new peacekeeping fleet, she smiles softly and declares, "We defend the dawn, not just fight the night." Her words resonate deeply, signaling a profound shift in purpose. This fleet will no longer be a tool of war, but a guardian of peace, tasked with protecting fragile alliances and nurturing fledgling communities. Ships prepare for their missions, crews conducting final checks not for battle, but for humanitarian aid and diplomatic support. Sarah's leadership embodies this new era, firm, compassionate, and unwavering. A commitment to stewardship that honors the sacrifices made and the futures yet to be forged. On a quiet hillside overlooking a vast alien landscape, Kai and Sarah stand side by side, their hands intertwined. Before them, twin suns crest the horizon, casting warm golden light over sprawling forests and shimmering lakes. The gentle breeze carries the scent of blooming flowers and fresh earth, a stark contrast to the acrid smoke of past conflicts. Their serene expressions speak volumes, reflecting both gratitude and determination. In this intimate moment, the rising suns symbolize more than just the start of a new day. They embody the enduring promise of hope, renewal, and the shared journey ahead. Together, they face the future with hearts united and spirits unbroken. The Aegis emblem gleams proudly on flags fluttering across rebuilt colonies, a beacon of peace and resilience visible from starports to city squares. Children gather in schools to learn the stories behind the symbol, the tales of courage, sacrifice, and unity that shaped their world. Elders speak of past struggles, while young faces shine with the light of understanding and aspiration. The emblem serves not only as a reminder of battles fought, but as a guiding star for generations to come, inspiring all who look upon it to uphold the values of peace, cooperation, and unwavering hope. As panoramic vistas reveal thriving worlds basking under vibrant skies, a calm narration reflects on the remarkable transformation from destruction to life. Peace, forged in the fires of war, has become the foundation upon which communities grow strong and dreams flourish. The gentle swell of orchestral music rises, weaving through scenes of children playing in sunlit gardens and families rebuilding homes. In every hopeful face and blossoming field, the enduring truth shines clear. From ashes, life not only returns, it thrives. On a vibrant colony plaza bathed in sunlight, A young child with wide, curious eyes tugs gently at Kai's sleeve. "Did you really beat a fleet with one secret weapon?" the child asks, voice tinged with awe and disbelief. Around them, citizens bustle with renewed energy. Children playing, merchants calling, and laughter filling the air. Kai kneels down to meet the child's gaze, his face calm and reflective. The question hangs in the air like a spark, inviting a story not just of battle, but of hope reborn in the darkest of times. His steady presence reassures the child, and all who listen, that great things often start with a single choice. Kai's voice is calm, carrying the weight of experience and quiet conviction. "It was never just a weapon," he explains gently. "It was a promise, proof that even when surrounded by darkness, hope can ignite a light that won't be extinguished." His eyes soften as he recalls the struggle, the gamble, and the faith that carried them through. The crowd around them leans in, absorbing the deeper meaning behind the story, a reminder that courage and belief are as powerful as any technology. Kai's words weave a bridge from past sacrifice to future possibility. Standing beside Kai, Sarah places a warm, steady hand on his gauntlet. Her smile is quiet but radiant, full of shared history and unspoken strength. "And that promise still burns bright," she affirms, her voice carrying the weight of endurance and partnership. Together, they embody not only the past battles but the ongoing commitment to protect and nurture the light they sparked. Their intertwined hands symbolize unity, proof that hope is carried forward not alone, but together through trust and resilience. Above the Colony Plaza, the Aegis Dawn emblem glows with steady brilliance, projected onto the gleaming dome that shelters the bustling community. Its radiant light casts a warm glow on the faces of citizens gathered below, eyes turned upward in reverence and admiration. The emblem, a symbol born from struggle and sacrifice, now shines as a beacon guiding the path toward a brighter, united future. It reminds all who see it that hope, once kindled, has the power to illuminate even the darkest corners of the galaxy. As stars shimmer softly over the peaceful colony, a gentle narration reflects on the enduring legacy of the Aegis Protocol. One weapon sparked endless hope, proving that courage and unity can change destinies, rewrite histories, and forge new paths forward. The music swells softly, an uplifting orchestral crescendo, as scenes of thriving life and quiet determination unfold. This is a story not just of war, but of light breaking through the darkness, a promise to all who dare to dream of freedom and peace.